Okay, so we're recording now.
Yeah.
In just 1 second, we'll the host. So Donald's now the host, so he can. So if I leave the meeting, it will keep going. So we're really happy to be having the series of interviews with our Math Alliance scholars who have earned their doctorates. And today we have just a great pleasure to welcome Immanuel Williams, who got his PhD at Rutgers, and I'm sure he'll tell you more about his path as the as we go through. And I should, as always, remind ourselves that our interviewer, we're very lucky to have our interviewers, Professor Donald Cole, Emeritus University of Mississippi, and epic figure in the civil rights movement that is a national treasure. So we've seen a few of these interviews already, and they're just wonderful. So we're uh, just gonna let you guys talk, and I will see you later. Take care.
Thank you so much, David. Yeah, thank you for setting this up. And Emmanuel,
Oh, you're welcome.
do I have audio and video?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I can hear you.
Okay, you're a little muffled. Let me maybe get you to speak.
Adjust.
Okay, that sounds.
How's that sound?
That sounds a little better. Sounds a little better.
Okay.
Okay. And there is probably a position for which I can see your face a little better. Okay, you're a little dark. Oh yeah. That helps. I don't know what you did. You might have to tell me.
I have a light. I have a light in my office, like it's like shining right in front of my face.
I see. Okay. Very good. Well, as David said, I'm Donald Cole, and I've been working with the Alliance for a good while, and we wanted to interview you to get your perspectives on a number of things and talk about your experiences that got you to where you are today in life. And so I'd like to ask you a number of questions, and then to ask you for some open-ended comments as well. And the whole thing should take no more than an hour, but I want you to feel free to take as much time as you need to respond to any of the questions or comments. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, so we will make it work then. So first of all, let's maybe start by you sort of giving us a little mathematical, chronological timeline about yourself. Tell me where you were from originally and where you grew up. Tell me where you went to school and a little bit about the schools that you went to obtain your various degrees.
Yes. So I was born in Washington, D.C. I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I went to school K through 12 in Montgomery County. I applied to some schools after graduating from high school, and I landed at the Virginia Commonwealth University, and it was an out-of-state institution, so I eventually transferred to a local community college, and I felt like the education at the community college was great, but I wanted more. So I eventually applied to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and that was one of the schools that I did not get into when I originally applied to undergrad. And so it was a kind of like, a bittersweet moment, to finally get in. And when I was there, they have this Meyerhoff program that's meant to get students of minority backgrounds to get PhDs or MD PhDs. And so being involved, I wasn't initially in the program, but I became an affiliate. And by me being affiliated with the program, they provided me with a lot of different opportunities to go to conferences, meet individuals that are, renowned in the field that are of color. And that's what led me to the Field of Dreams conference in Iowa. I believe it was 2009, 2008. And that's where I was able to meet more individuals that were, not even just more, just individuals in general that were of color, that had a background in mathematics and statistics. And so while I was at the University of Maryland in Baltimore County and, attending these conferences, I started to build this, I wanted to do math at the time. But I started to build this, confidence within myself. If they can do it, I can do it. And so, which is a nice kind of feeling. Without that, I don't know what I would have studied, or I don't know what would have happened. So with that being the case, on my end, at least a little bit more so, is that I actually took a stat class. I fell in love with statistics. I eventually applied to grad school for statistics instead of mathematics. And I applied to Rutgers, got into a master's program. I worked really hard and eventually got into the PhD program in education, measurement, and statistics. And then I moved to California 2 years before I finished. And then here I am 3 years after I graduated and I finished. Yeah. It's a long story, guys.
Okay, then of course I love your virtual picture in the background with the Golden Gate, and and there's something that you're doing. I don't know that zooms you in and zooms you out, but when you zoom in, I get a very good picture of your face in the background as well. So I
the
don't
camera does it, yeah.
I don't know whether or not it was being done automatically by you or whatever, but feel free to zoom in because it gives a beautiful photo of your face as well. You mentioned some of the things that I wanted to hear, but perhaps you could expound a little bit upon the for the Alliance, and I'm part of the Alliance, and we're doing these interviews, but some things that the Alliance has done for you, how you became involved again, and some of the major players that that you associate with the Alliance. And when you sort of think about the Alliance and the Field of Dreams conference or whatever, if you were to just sit back and think about them a little bit, what are some of the things that come to mind that are important? And so it's something that we're doing right. We want to make sure that we continue to do right. And so we just want you to reflect again upon the Alliance.
So primarily what I remember, and just some experiences that resonates with me, was being able to see individuals that were going through the same issues that I was going through. And what I mean by that is I was able to talk. I believe I had a roommate my first year during that conference in the fall at the University of Iowa. And that roommate was a master's student in math. And he was one of a few in his department, just like how I was one of a few in my department. And by me being able to communicate, my I guess my shortcomings in terms of being one and only, that allowed me to at least get his point of view on what it means to be successful within a math program. What does it mean to actually apply to graduate school and get in? And so it's those little small inklings that I was able to get from, in this particular situation, from a grad student, my roommate, that it was possible. It is possible, What else? Some other events that also occurred were centered around being able to see faculty of color at my institution at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. At that time, there weren't any individuals of color. I remember being able to meet. I believe I met you once, maybe in passing. Be able to see you once, but more specifically, I was able to meet Phil. And there's another professor, Phil Kutsko, and I was able to meet another professor at Iowa State University, African American male. Mm-hmm. His name is drawing blanks on my apologies. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And so yeah, I was able to go ahead.
Oh no, nothing. But yeah, go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, so being able to speak with him, about statistics, about opportunities in statistics, about, graduate school, about the work that he was doing. I believe his primary research was time series. And it was like, okay, I can do this, I can do this. There's opportunities out there for me. I just have to focus. And so it's really important to be able to see a reflection when you look in the mirror, you know what I mean? Because if you can't see yourself doing something, you know, that dream cannot be attained. But it's nice to be able to see that. It's nice to be able to see individuals in places that you eventually would want to be. And by seeing that professor, by being able to see you, be able to meet Phil, it was an experience that led me through nights where I felt as though I couldn't do things. So yeah, that was important.
Okay. Well, thank you. And for reflecting upon the Alliance and the Field of Dream Conference and some of the things that you mentioned, we'll certainly keep doing. But I'm just reminded, Immanuel, that you have your terminal degree, PhD in mathematics. Oh, wow. You must be a genius.
No, well, it's a PhD in education measurement, and I
Yes.
appreciate the compliment.
Yes, but how do you react when people say that in terms of?
I get excited. I feel accomplished. I feel as though I was able to put my mind to something that a lot of individuals either don't think that they can attain, or when they're trying to attain it, they give up. And so it was an experience that I needed as an individual to grow. I'm happy, and I feel I'm fortunate to be able to pass the baton to the students that I currently teach. So yeah, that's how I feel when I think about my doctorate degree.
Yes. Okay. Which is yeah, which is good. You worked you worked very hard to be where you are now, for sure. Let me maybe ask you a little personal question here, if I may. If you feel comfortable in answering, go ahead. And if you don't, then that's okay as well. But in terms of your career in mathematics, maybe give me an incident or two of a time for which you felt pretty much devastated and almost to the point of wanting to give up and not complete things, and also balance us off with an instant, a time or two for which you were very proud of your accomplishment of some things that you did somewhere along the way. So those extremes, if you are willing to share an example or two of both of those.
Yes. So one moment that comes to mind was when I was trying to develop, of course I'm using my dissertation, but when I was trying to develop this MCMC Monte Carlo Markov chain simulation model, and first of all, when I remember the very first code that I used to run the simulation, it didn't make any sense. It legitimately failed, and it was just nonsense. I thought when I was programming it, I felt as though I was going. This is going to be it. My dissertation was going to be done in 2 months. Great, fantastic. But lo and behold, I remember looking at the posterior distribution, and no, there was no convergence. I don't even think I even got a unimodal distribution. And so that just let me know that, it was, this dissertation was going to be a lot harder than I originally thought. So, as it ought to. And so that particular situation extended itself throughout the entire dissertation, when I eventually got a working model. And so that was great, a model that actually converged. But then my advisor wanted me to run a number of simulations under a number of circumstances. And the computational power that was needed in order for me to get the actual simulations done was not possible on my computer. So one of the first attempts that I took to solve this was to build my own computer from scratch. Okay, I had to build my own computer from scratch. And so the reason why I had to build my own computer is because there was a individual in my department who would hog the lab's computer. So I had to create my own. So with that even story, me having to create my own, I was like, how am I gonna get this money to get the parts? And so what I ended up doing was creating a little side business of me, teaching math to students. And so with any dream, you have to, keep pressing. Okay, I wanted the computer. How do I get the computer? I have to build it. In order for me to build it, I need to buy the parts. In order for me to buy the parts, I need to get another job. So by me getting this job, just to run these simulations, by me getting this job, I was able to not only teach students, which I found out that I love doing, but I was also able to eventually see that if you set goals, you can attain them. So I was able to actually still create this computer from this side job that I was able to now have. But mind you, once I built the computer, the specs on the computer weren't at a certain level for me to even run all my simulations. So that was another, downslide. So one last issue is that I was able to then, use Amazon Web Services to then, run my simulations, and I was able to, get that to be finished for my dissertation, which was nice. However, in terms of two things that I'm really extremely proud of, that I could at least be I can tell people about, is that in terms of my dissertation, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I didn't expound upon it, is that when it came to my dissertation, after I defended or at least passed my qualifying exams out and I was done with my classes, I decided to move to California. Okay, I wanted to live in California and complete my dissertation. Okay, so that was one idea. That was one kind of issue that was kind of crazy. And then another situation was that my advisor was at Rutgers, but she decided to move to South Korea. So for my dissertation, I was in California. My advisor was in Korea, and my committee was in New Jersey.
Okay.
So we were working at this more. So I was working at this so that I could have this dream come to fruition by me pushing myself, by me being able to have self-motivation to get this task done no matter what. And the funny thing is, I was able to move to California, and I came into the graduate program with with colleagues, with a cohort, but I was able to finish my dissertation before they were. Granted, their advisor was with them as well. So that was nice for me. It's nice for me to be proud of that.
And I don't know if it gets any more complicated than that either, but that lets you know the power of technology and what can be done. It also lets you know how diligent you were in that process as well, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Yes, Immanuel, it's our hope that a number of individuals would view these videos. I suspect that there will be some 12-year-olds, there will be some 15-year-olds, there will be some students just entering college, there would be lots of minority students who are looking at these videos. And you know, amongst those age groups and amongst those categories, you know, pick one of them and say something too. Uh, if one of those groups has an interest, career in mathematics, what would you say to them?
You know what's funny is I'll say two things, or a couple of things. First of all, I would want to speak to primarily the individual that likes math or
Mhm.
that finds it to be fun, but ever so challenging. They're not good at it. That was me. Um, when it comes to math, it wasn't easy. It didn't come easy, and I appreciate that it didn't because it made me want it more. It made me think about things that or think through things that someone who gets it automatically would not. And so that kind of mindset, that kind of perseverance is a skill set that is not only beneficial in math, but it's beneficial in life. You have this mindset of, okay, I'm a sixth grader or I'm entering into high school and they put me in, they placed me or I've earned a place to be in maybe algebra one or rudimentary math, but just know that you can work through you can work through the levels to a higher place. When I was placed in algebra in high school, I got A's. I did get A's in algebra in high school, but I was hungry. I was extremely hungry. And over the summer, I took geometry. I took geometry because I wanted it more. I wanted it more. So
Mm.
you have to find ways to feed your hunger, even if it's not easy for you. If it's not easy for you, the better. Okay, because then you'll be able to give this story, your testimony, as I'm giving it to you now. So yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, okay. Thank you for that. You know, you made me reflect back a little bit. Of course, I have to go back much, much, much further, a lot more years.
I
but,
understand.
but at any rate, you are very accomplished and you have lots of accolades associated with you, and you even have some degrees with your name on it and the word mathematics on it as well, statistics,
Yeah.
etc. Uh, Tell me when you first really felt like that you were a mathematician, that you were a statistician, that you had somehow earned this title.
So I would say I have a complicated view on it because I would like to say that it comes and it needs to go in a sense that it makes me want to learn more. A statistician, if you feel as though your cup is full, you'll say, okay, fine. I don't need to learn more. I'm okay. But as an academic, we're always trying to gain more. We're always trying to accomplish more. So one of the very first times when I at least felt like, I understand this stuff, I can get this stuff, was back as an undergrad. There was I was learning about multiple regression. And so for those who may not necessarily know what multiple regression is, or regression in general, is when you're trying to use a quantitative variable. You're trying to use a certain variable to predict another variable. For example, you're trying to use your high school GPA to predict how you're going to do in college. When I learned that I could do such a thing, I said I have to do a project. So I did the most biased survey that ever is possible, and I randomly select only my friends to partake in this study. It wasn't even random; it was just my friends. And I used their high school GPA to predict their college GPA, and I was able to create, the equation, and that's when I felt like I am a statistician. I am I can do these experiments. So that was a great experience. That was a great experience. I would also say when I was able to run the MCMC algorithm, that was tough. That was very, very tough. But when I was able to actually see a posterior distribution that had a unimodal, outcome in terms of um, in terms of my results, I was extremely excited. I knew that I was a statistician then. I was a statistician then. or mathematician. I know that's another keyword.
One and the same, one and the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well,
I just have some noise. In my
those are, that's a great story. And, and those are some great moments that you had, and well earned as well. Let me maybe get to a little personal side of Immanuel. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up, that particular community, and now that you are a professional statistician, you probably have a different perspective, and you're probably around different people. But describe the community that you grew up in, and maybe reflect a little bit on how, as a professional statistician, you might be able to influence or reach back at that community.
Oh wow. I would have to give background information in terms of my parents. My father, both my father and mother are from Sierra Leone, from Africa. They were born in Africa, and they
Mhm.
came in the late 70s, and they had my sisters and I. And my my motivation for college in general stemmed from my sister. And she was extremely smart. She got things quicker than I did, and I wanted to be like her in all respects. It was very hard. I was never like her. She always beat me and everything. But growing up in my community with my sisters, success, I was always trying to follow and try to compete. That led me to wanting to go to college. At least I wanted to go to college like she did, and I wanted to study medicine. Actually, wanted to become more specifically, I wanted to become a pharmacist. And yeah, that was my primary goal. And in terms of my surroundings, it's very very interesting because where I lived in my community, um, it was it was African Americans, blacks and Africans. I mean, it's one of the same, okay. But we both lived in one neighborhood, in a small neighborhood. However, around us was those Caucasians, white individuals, and so of course how we were raised was different. And so for me, my parents didn't want me to grow up in that small little micro community where I wouldn't say the outcome was unsuccessful because my sister was an example that was success, but the individuals that were around me weren't in my age group weren't necessarily doing the best decisions, weren't having the best decisions. So my stepmother decided to move us away into another community where it was still predominantly African American, black, but at the same time, they weren't individuals that were doing bad decisions. They just weren't. And so, with that kind of community, I was able to find jobs in high school where my other peers were not. So, I still kept in contact with them. I was still able to go to the same high school, but I was just in a different community. And so, my friends, my old friends, I saw them selling drugs. They sold, I guess, marijuana, and they played sports, but they eventually quit the team, and it was just not the best outcome from them. But for me, I was able to find a job, play sports, as well as even partake in after school plays because I had that distance. I had that distance in mindset. I had that distance in belief. And in terms of selling drugs, and in terms of me being able to become wanting to become a pharmacist, I said, I want to, work for CVS. So I was able to work for CVS and, be able to, see my dream as becoming a pharmacist by working in the pharmacy. So that was a good experience for myself in terms of growing up. And in terms of individuals that are in bad circumstances, or at least in circumstances where individuals around them don't have that positive mindset, what you should try to do is especially in this day and age, is to either use YouTube videos or use books or try to find individuals that, you know, are outside of where you live at that mirror what you want to become. Because that will allow you to start to envision yourself outside of your current situation. That's important. And that's what I was able to do.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's going to help lots and lots of people. Um, I want to ask another question that might be a little imposing. And again, if you don't feel like answering, that's okay as well. But I'm thinking about the social climate here in the United States that we find ourselves in, you know, with the idea of social justice and the death of George Floyd, police brutality, and all of these coming into forefront today. And here you are, a very accomplished individual with a terminal degree in statistics. And I'd just like for you to speak to that situation and somehow add, you know, the flavor of you being a statistician and a professional at this point relative to what's going on in our country.
What this particular situation tells me that we have to move. We have to make strides. We look at, because I mean, I have a lot of opinions on this, and I'll try to be succinct as much as possible. I mean, because we have a lot to do. Yes, that's true. But through this process of getting the PhD, one has to, as an African American in general, or even as a minority, you go through the process of saying you're trying to prove a point. You're trying to prove to your white counterparts that you can do this. And what is sad and a little bit debilitating about that thought is that it's not about you. It's legitimately not about you. It's about generations after you. You know, you may not necessarily write a book that changes the world. You may not necessarily create that next equation that, you know, is, you know, recognized by all mathematicians. No, you're going to be an individual, or at least you as an individual completing this degree is going to be a star that individuals look up to. You know, that yes, they are killing us and not getting justice. We're not seeing justice, and they believe that we're not becoming. They have all these stereotypes that tell us that we cannot do, and you feel as though you just have to prove to them, and that's not important. They are not important. We are fighting for us. We are fighting for generations to come. We are staying up late, having long nights, early mornings for children that have not yet been born, so that us as a community can persist. Because yes, just to add a little piece on this is yes, we've seen some shift in some of them in terms of their mindset, that they know that they've been doing wrong. They've been living a life of a lie. But for us, who cares when they change their mind? It needs to be in us that we change our mind and we work for the greater good of our kind. So that's where I currently feel like you need to not your priorities, your reason why needs not to be conditioned on their approval. It needs to be for the betterment of our society as a community. I mean, especially for our community. Sorry. So yeah.
Oh, Immanuel, thank you for that response. I can feel your passion in it as well. And anyone else watching this interview is going to be able to feel it also. We've had a chance to look at Immanuel today and had a chance to look at his past. Let me project to the future. Where do you see Immanuel 10, 15, 20 years from now? And what do you see some of the things that he's doing, and what are some of the things that he would like to do and accomplish?
Okay. Look, at this current moment, I am a lecturer at Cal Poly. In terms of goals, being a professor, a full tenured professor, is a goal of mine. Okay, that's goal number one. I currently, while I was in grad school, I have a lot of individuals in my cohort, again, talking about what I just said before, that didn't believe in me, that, had doubts. I remember two of them actually asked me this on two different occasions. Did I grow up with my father? And that messed with me, because my father was the number one supporter, one of the number one supporters in my life. And so those two experiences motivated me to create a children's book called The Adventures of Jameer, shapes all around. So it's about an African American boy who struggles in mathematics, but perseveres. So essentially like me. And so what I would love to see happen is that I create more and more books about this topic, about a young African American boy or African American girl or Latinx boy or girl, or just marginalized communities in general, that motivates students to see individuals that are like them doing what they feel as though they can, being curious, being able to ask questions. I know in classrooms, your teacher might, refrain you from asking questions, and that's not good. And so I always have my students, whether in my class or even in the book that I made, always ask questions, being curious, finding different ways to find solutions. And so that's a project that I would like to work on. I would also like to continue writing worksheets and creating software to push students to want to learn more. That's something that's huge for me. So this past year, I created an R Shiny. It's a GUI within R statistical software that allows students to interact with data. And I like to continue recording their data, recording their experience, so that I can enhance their experience in terms of learning statistics. So that's something that I'm really interested in pursuing in the future, and having that evolve, especially with augmented reality as well as mixed reality. I can imagine in the years to come, where individuals have headsets, because now in terms of we're doing everything through Zoom, right? So I can imagine a virtual classroom, legitimately virtual, where they're in a different you know circumstance, and they're able to interact with their hands with whether it's data or manipulatives, for them to understand data in a different way. And so I would want to be on a cutting edge of not necessarily that research, but more so on creating software and experiences that lend itself to enhancing students' experience learning statistics and mathematics.
Yes. Oh man, you paint a very bright future, and I know that you're going to have a very bright future as well. I want to explore a little bit on one or two of the things that you mentioned here, because you are a statistician, and I should imagine that industry and business would love to have you working with them, but you've chosen the professorate route. And so it must be something about the pleasure and the joy of being a professor that makes you stay in that track. Expound on that a little bit, the idea and the joys of being a professor.
So at first, I have to be honest, I definitely thought that industry was going to be the route that I went down. You know, that was definitely, my initial thought. It just made sense. Let's make money, buy a house, and and then I guess retire. That'd be great. That would be great. However, especially those. This is a message for those who go through a traumatic learning experience that I've been blessed to go through a lot. So for me, I felt as though my experience tells me that a lot needs to change in terms of education, especially when it comes to math and statistics. And so, yes, it'll be easier to just make money, in industry in Silicon Valley. That would be great. However, the reward behind that is money, and money in of itself. But when you see a child or a student see themselves in you, as well as push themselves past, what they expect of themselves, that's something that the job force cannot give. It just can't. So teaching is way more fulfilling, than working in industry. And I love to see students just on day one have this face of, I don't believe in myself. I can't do it. But then through office hours, through coming to class, through random visits in class in general, on the campus in general, I see them build a level of confidence. And that's what I love to see. I love to see that. So that's why industry is not for me.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I'm reminded that I went to industry post my PhD for about 5, 6 years, and I ended up in academia. And when people ask me why, what you just said is what I want them to hear. So, so I appreciate you giving me that answer.
Well, thank you.
If you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question on that. So, can I do it all over again then, as in like data science and statistics is not the hot thing anymore, or am I doing it now when data science is huge?
You pick.
All right, I'll go back then, and I'll say I'll still do it again. I would definitely do it again. Um, I feel as though I would have liked taking more theoretical math classes. And this is again going for those undergraduates who are taking like a proof-based class, and they don't like it. That way of thinking and being able to go through a rigorous proof distinguishes you from the common statistician. That distinguishes you. So I feel as though going through and having that foundation, taking more classes in real analysis is something that I wish I would have taken advantage of. And then at the same rate, I feel like, then doing it again, just adding more comp sci and math classes. Statistics is great, but having more comp sci and theoretical math classes will always make you stronger. Will always make you stronger. So that's me. Yes, I converted to statistics, but I know that having a stronger math background would make me would have made me a better statistician. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you. We've gotten a chance to know you well from this interview. We've asked a lot of questions, and at the end of it, when it's viewed, we want individuals to know who you are. We want individuals to know some of the challenges that you've had, how you fought through those challenges, and we've designed some of those questions to bring out some of that. And so the question now is, what is it that we didn't ask? What is it that we should be able to tell the audience that hadn't been said? What kind of closing comments do you have? Summary about who you are, what made you successful, and and good advice that you can give to someone else. So just speak to any of that.
So I think that, I mean, you did mention this earlier, which was great in terms of, finding instances of something that you've overcome. But I feel like doubt and failure are things that students are going to consistently face. It's a characteristic of the human race. Like we have an issue of always doubting whether it's ourselves or others, and the fear of tomorrow, whether it's fear of success or fear of failure. Those two things are going to be guaranteed. And I feel like emphasizing that within the interview, or emphasizing that to those that are going to watch these videos, is going to be paramount to success. When it comes to athletes or performing, whether it's a tennis player or a runner or a swimmer, we just measure that particular instance. Okay, they traveled this far in this bandwidth of time, but we forget the amount of practice that goes into that. And so it makes it seem as if those tasks are insurmountable. Getting a PhD seems so far-fetched. But when you break down that fear, when you break down that thought, because it's going to come regardless, you can start to see yourself building in that routine of practice, and practice until you get to that successful moment where individuals are measuring you on how you were able to run that far in that short amount of time, or be able to swim, or being able to complete that problem, or be able to defend that thesis, or to be able to explain that mathematical formula. I feel like doubt and fear are always going to be there. And I feel like we were able to mention that, but I really wanted to just drill that home in that, yes, doubt and fear are there, but you have to bring it down daily so that you can have that moment of success.
Immanuel, that's a profound response that you gave, and that's going to really, really help somebody. And the reason that I know that is because it's helping me.
I understand. We're going through some tough times now.
Yes. Yeah. So I certainly appreciate your willingness to talk with us and to share from the bottom of your heart. And I think what we have in mind is certainly going to work as people watch these various videos. So again, certainly thank you for taking off the time to do this, and I look forward to following your career.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
that. And as you kind of outlined the timelines of some things that you hope to happen, I see no reason for them not to happen, and I just have good faith in you. So again, thank you so very, very much, and I want to kind of wish you all the best in life.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Donald.
All right, you are the epitome of what we've hoped to have accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so you have a great afternoon, and thank you again.
All right, you do the same. Thanks. Have a good one.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.